Good evening, everyone. As usual, please do introduce yourself when you come in so that we know who is joining and we are able to acknowledge you. We're going to take a few minutes just to give others a chance to join while we listen to the music that is playing in the background. Good evening, Sharon. Thank you for joining. Please invite others, share the link. Good evening, family. Good evening. Datem Goma, we welcome you. We welcome you, Prudence. Remember to share, and we are also on YouTube under the tag In His Grace and Mercy. So please do check that as well. I think we are good to start. Let us start so that we maximize the time that we have together. July, long time. Good evening to you too. So I think we start. I see Katlaho is also here, and Datem Goma appreciating the Pala. As always, this is how we start. So I'm gonna ask that we open on this platform, Sean. We start with a word of prayer, and we invite God to be with us. Those who don't believe in prayer, they allow us. So we're going to start. I'll open and then we introduce you and we get into today's topic. So ke kopa music o ya hlahanyane re khona starta. Can we start? Dear Lord, we thank you. We appreciate the gift of life. We appreciate everything that you do for us. Modimo wa ka tsohle di matsohong a hao bophelo rona ka re le batho ba hao tsohle tsa rona ntate re di beile ho wena. And as we start this conversation tonight, we are centering it on appreciating the gift that you have given us, which is life, oh God. Many would have loved to be here, but they are not. And we are the fortunate one. We are the blessed one who are here, and we appreciate this blessing. Bless all of us as we sit tonight to learn, to encourage one another, to develop new habits, to be able to take whatever we are learning here and to apply it in our lives. To be able to be ambassadors of our lives. To come and affirm us, but may we learn to love ourselves, to affirm ourselves, so that bophelo ntate bo re fe seo re se batlang re itshepetse ho wena ka nako tsohle. Santseng re tlo buisana modimo re etelle pele tsohle re di bitsa ka lebitso le matla la Kriste Jesu. Amen. Amen. Thank you. I was wondering if the music is going to continue. Thank you. I am joined tonight, family. Good evening, Refilwe. I'm joined tonight by a very talented person because only accolades he's a senior clinical therapist, employee wellness practitioner, a mental health specialist, a writer, a poet, an academic, a lover of life, as he calls himself. And we will hear more from him. You know, all these things, what do they entail? But I'm sure you've observed, those who've been joining with us, that we've kept the theme almost the same throughout since we began 2022. And it's intentional because if you want behavior change, you will note that you don't just say a message once and leave it there. If you want people to adopt habits that are life-changing, if you want people, to practice certain things, the message must be consistent. You must say the same thing over and over and over again until it becomes second nature to them, until they no longer need to remember what did they say, but it's something that is already, imprinted in their minds, and it's something they draw on as soon as they find themselves in a situation. So we've been intentional about talking on issues pertaining to how do you care for yourself, how do you love yourself, how do you hold space for yourself, how do you hold space for other people, how do you develop life skills that can change your life for the better. And so this whole 3 months, because we started in January, where we were talking about stress management, where we're talking about how to set goals for yourselves, all these things are meant to help us in 2022 to be better versions of ourselves. Last year, we were in, I think the last 2 years has been very hard on everyone because of, COVID, something that was new, but something that we have learned to live with. But the repercussions and, we are still dealing with them, and we are going to deal with them for some time to come. So that is why we need to armor ourselves with knowledge, with information, for those of us who are not coping, those of us who were severely affected by loss of family, loss of loved ones, loss of jobs, loss of many things, you don't give up on yourself. We are trying to say we are standing in the gap with you, and we are standing together as a family, and we are finding ways and tools that we can help each other with so that we cope. We know what life is about that. It's about applying skills and tools to cope with everyday challenges. So I hope you would appreciate then today's topic, where we are now learning how to master self-love. I think that's one of the difficult things when I shown that we find. I hear in spaces where I work a lot of people talking about imposter syndrome, where they believe in other people, but somehow when it comes to them, they don't have that belief, or I can do this. But they are good at encouraging and telling other people what to do and cheering people to achieve. But we are not, good cheerers of ourselves, if that's the right English. And so I want to welcome you, Sean, and thank you for taking time to be with us. And we hope to learn from you. I mean, you are an employee wellness practitioner, so you are well-rounded. You are a clinical therapist, mental health specialist. You can throw in poetry as well there. You are an academic. So, you can do all in one space. You can combine all of these as you talk to us tonight. So just say hi to everyone. We refer to each other as family here. So welcome to our family. You are now the newest member of the family. We welcome you and would love to hear your voice. So say hi to the people and tell
Thank
us a bit
you.
about yourself.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for placing a demand on the anointing that I carry. I hope that it's going to be a very interactive session where we engage. It shouldn't be one way, so it's not a lecture. So
Mm,
ask as often as possible so that I can explain whatever concepts that you want me to explain. A
yeah,
little bit about myself. Simple, lover of life, lover of soft things, lover of all things kind, and all things warm. A great proponent for and an advocate for love and peace and understanding. I abhor violence and I abhor depression and stress, and I abhor anything that stops human development. So yeah, that's the long and short of me. I practice as a therapist, as you would have heard, from Bedford View in Johannesburg, as well as from Pretoria. So those of you that may feel that after this session you actually want to delve deeper into whatever issues may be going on, feel free to reach out so that I can assist. That's the long and short of who I am.
yeah. Thank you, and thank you for offering your services to this family. Let us get straight to it. You know,
Mm,
we've been talking about self-love, and I think
mm,
it's a concept that we hear often. We throw it here and there in conversations. You know, people talk about you must love yourself. How about start with
mm.
loving yourself? But what is this concept? What does it really mean when we say you must have self love or you must practice self love? What is entailed in that?
Okay. So simply put, self-love is a state of appreciation for oneself. So it's essentially holding yourself in high regard, respecting yourself and taking care of your own needs, prioritizing yourself and putting yourself first, and to a large degree ensuring that you do not accept anything less than you deserve or anything less than you are actually worth. That's what self-love entails. And
Yeah.
it goes so far as you trusting yourself, allowing yourself to make mistakes and learning from those mistakes, but also holding off on passing judgment on yourself. Because what happens with a lot of people is we go through life, we make mistakes, and a lot of the times we then want those mistakes to define who we are. And yet,
Mm,
that mistake was made by an older version of you, because my personal belief is that human beings are not a finished product, they are still in
mhm,
the process of becoming. So because you're not a
mm,
finished product like bread that we get off a shelf that's already baked and you can eat it, you will make mistakes. And the
yeah.
question then becomes, when you've made a mistake, are you able to learn from that mistake? Are you able to hold space for yourself, forgive yourself, and actually move on?
Yeah.
It also means being true to yourself. That's what
Mm.
self love entails. And it also means setting healthy boundaries and ensuring that you trust yourself a lot more. I would say that's the long and short of what self love entails.
Yeah. I mean, I've started embracing this concept of holding space. You know,
Mm,
firstly for myself
mm,
and for others. So last week we were speaking on the platform about holding space for others, and we were
mm,
talking about how when you do that, you are not judgmental. You know, you are there in the space to hold people because you want them to feel appreciated, you want them to feel loved, you want
mm,
them to feel affirmed. But like I indicated, we fail a lot to do that. You know, the way we reprimand ourselves when we've made mistakes, to the point where some people actually even give up on themselves, you know. And we need to keep check of the things we say to ourselves when
mm,
we didn't do things the way we thought we would do them. Often I hear people say, "Hi Manfina, you're so stupid." And
mm,
that, you know, there's power in words.
mm,
That's what I believe. And
mm,
a lot of times, without even realizing, we curse ourselves because we make mistakes and we are so hard on
mm.
ourselves. So how do we unlearn
Yeah.
this, Wenashon? How do we get to a point where the same way we are able to be compassionate with other people,
Mm,
how do we
mm.
learn to be compassionate with self, holding
Okay.
space for self?
I love the fact that you use the word unlearn, right? because if at all you're going to be successful in your life, you need basically three abilities: the ability to unlearn. And when we speak of unlearning, we're saying there are things that you used to do in your former life or in your current life that no longer work for you. So as a result of that, you need to let them go and you need to unlearn whatever habits those are or whatever behaviors those are. Then you need the ability to relearn. So there are things that you used to do that actually were good for you that you stopped doing, maybe because of traumas, maybe because of distractions, maybe because of pain, etc. So you need to relearn how to do that. And then you also need the ability to learn, right? Learning then would mean that you're adopting new behaviors, new habits, and you're actually getting to a space where you realize that some of the things I used to do, I need to stop doing. Some of the things I used to do that I stopped doing, I need to start doing again. But also, there are new things that I need to start learning how to do. So, if you have those three, what you then need to understand is this: the reason why we criticize ourselves a lot more than we do other people is because if you look at my face right now, my eyes can see you, they can see the portal through which we're communicating. But my eyes, to a large degree, cannot see myself, right?
Mm.
So we see other people, we see their abilities, we see their strengths, we see sometimes even their weaknesses, but we don't see ourselves. And so holding space for yourself is you giving yourself time to look at yourself and being brutally honest with yourself. Who am I as an individual? What am I good at? What is it that I am not good at? What do I need to improve upon as an individual? The more you practice stillness, the more you practice seeing yourself, the more you understand yourself. It's what we call personal self or self mastery, so to speak. And the day you master yourself, the day that you know how your mind functions, the day that you know that you actually have the power to create the person you want to become, is the day that you become unstoppable. It's the day that you start loving yourself a lot more, but it's also the day that you start seeking your own validation rather than the validation of other people. So I would say that's what we need to do. And we need to get to a point where we realize that we are human beings, firstly. The same way we see others, we need to see ourselves. The same way we
Mm.
criticize others, we need to criticize ourselves. The same way we encourage others, we need to encourage ourselves. But you can only do that when you've taken time to know who you are. And therein lies the problem, because a majority of people spend their time so distracted because they are
Yeah.
scared of who they are or scared of finding out who they are. So you'd rather be busy with making other people happy as opposed to learning who you are, learning what your shortfalls are, learning what your strengths are, and actually being intentional about understanding yourself more, loving yourself more, forgiving yourself more.
Wow. I like these three things that you are saying we need, and I want us to unpack them a bit
Mm.
in depth. We are saying three abilities that we need to possess:
Yes.
ability to unlearn,
Yes.
to relearn, and
Hmm.
to learn. You know,
Yes.
so there are things that we grow up doing because we are told that's how it is done.
Hmm.
And a lot of times we are barred from even asking why. You know, the question why is never allowed. It's
Mm.
like in the home, they say, this is how we do it. When you say,
Yeah.
but why? Why are we doing it this way? You are told, hey, don't ask. This is how we
Mm.
do it. You know,
Mm.
so I think in there, you find this navigating a space like that a bit restrictive when you
Mm.
want now to break out and start learning anew. Because
Mm.
if you are in a home, for example,
Mm.
that says, this is how it's done. And I'm trying to think of an example, that we can engage with. But you find that in some homes, you are expected, or let me feminist this one because
Mm.
my
By all
you know,
means.
by all means, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
You know, so you are a woman and you want to show yourself appreciation and
Mm.
love.
Mm.
And either you are a married woman, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
that space of loving yourself, showing yourself appreciation,
Yeah.
wanting to achieve your own goals. like setting your own standards and your own goals, is somewhat something that society is not yet embracing. It's something that is still, a negotiated thing, let me put it like that, where there's an expectation, societal expectation in terms of a woman is this, a man is this. And whatever that you want to do that is outside that normative sphere is looked at negatively. And maybe that's why some people are then unable to show themselves this appreciation and this love, because there's an expectation that you must fit within a certain box. How do you navigate that space? Because I think then it borders also on mental health issues. That's why you find some people unhappy but still staying in unhappy relationships, because there are expectations. You must meet this expectation if you are to be considered a real man, a real woman.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. And just as an aside, I want to say a lot of women have actually lost years of self-love trying to be loyal to toxic men.
Yeah.
I hear you mentioning that, okay, so there are societal expectations, there are norms, there are values, etc. And I understand that. But for me, it boils down to one thing. What is the contract, the social or the psychological contract between you and your specific partner? Because in
Mm,
as much as, yes, you get married, you form part of a family, etc., the deal starts with the two of you. You meet, you make a decision, you want to get married, right? So some of the questions that we actually, I call them foundational questions, right? Or foundational discussions or conversations that people need to have before making the decision to get married or take the plunge, whatever people define it as. And some
yeah.
of these center on, okay, so Sean, you say you love me. What is your definition of love? What are your expectations of me? And what is it that you want out of this whole marriage situation?
Mm,
And the same goes for the partner in that sense. My wife would then have to ask the same questions, and should have to answer the same. How does she define love? What is it that she expects of me? And
mm,
what is her definition of a happy marriage? So it's the two of you. I understand societal norms, values, etc., but the two of you are the most critical people in this. So if
yeah.
my definition of love is, and I'll give you my definition of love, it's derived from one of the foremost psychiatrists that I follow, late, but it did seminary work, very important work. And his name is Dr. M. Scott Peck, and he defines love as the willingness to extend oneself for the sake of the other
Mm,
and for the sake of that other person's spiritual, emotional, psychological growth. So
wow.
if you look at that definition in and of itself, what it means is I'm not going to have expectations that my wife should just be standing by the sidelines and cheering me on. In as much as that's great, I also want her to become the best possible version of herself. Because when she becomes the best possible version of herself and I am the best possible version of myself, then it's a happy marriage, isn't it? And all of us are fulfilled. Nobody
Yeah.
is dying a thousand deaths simply to remain in a situation where they are stagnant, they are unfulfilled, they are unappreciated, they are unloved. So for me, I get it. I get society, I get societal values, etc. But for me, it's about how you guys define what love is, what your expectations are, and
Yeah.
what the agreements are. So what it then means, for example, is that I make it clear, even to my own family, this particular woman is joining this family because of me. She has a right to education. She has a right to improve herself. If it means I'm going to have to take care of the children while she does that, while she improves herself, so be it. And you can come to my house, no problem. You will find me doing the dishes, and I'm not going to feel some type of way because maybe my parents expect me to be sitting down while she's doing the dishes. We define what works for us. And as a unit, we tell people how to read us and how to relate to us. I see there
Yeah.
was a request for the definition of love again. The
Yeah.
willingness to extend oneself for the sake of the other's spiritual, personal, psychological, emotional growth. Okay.
Wow.
So what that then says to me is that also we need to be cognizant of the fact that if we have the ability to learn, unlearn, relearn, it says, I get to a point where I say, okay, I'm at an age where I want to settle down. Yes, Bomma told me what they told me about marriage, right? But
Mm.
I also need to come up with my own definition, and I need to come up with what works for me, because you're bringing two different people, two different cultures sometimes, two different nations even sometimes, and these people are trying to form a unit. So it cannot be right that the one person comes and says, we're going to do things my way, or the way that I was taught, or we're going
Yeah.
to do things the way that you were taught. We then need to come up with a hybrid system and say, listen, when I was growing up, these are the things that I observed. These are the things that I liked about how I was brought up. These are the things I didn't like. So, this part, what do you think about it? Shall we adopt this? Do you think it will work for us in our
Mm.
situation? And then we do the same for the other party, and then we come up with our own hybrid situation. The second we
Yeah.
have our own hybrid system, it works for us. So, I cannot then be prescriptive about, okay, a married woman must do this and a married man must do this, because that definition differs for all the individuals in the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
I'm not so sure if I answered you exhaustively.
look, I think for me, the gist of everything is we should not deny ourselves the love that you speak of, um,
Mm,
the spiritual, the psychological, the emotional
mm,
elements of this love. We should not deny ourselves that in the for the sake of other people,
ah,
and that's where it starts. You are
mm,
you are given a platform to be able to love yourself in the same way that the person who's with you expects to be loved. And
mm,
until we get it right, I think a lot of people, and like you were saying, a lot of women have lost decades of loving themselves,
yeah,
trying to be loyal and
mm,
trying to fit the
yeah,
standard, because there is that expectation, there is that standard. And I like what I'm hearing, that we need to extend. So when you love yourself, that extension becomes so much easy, and it
ah,
becomes something that you enjoy doing.
mhm,
Love is should not feel like punishment.
no,
And I see a lot of relationships where love feels like this is punishment,
mm,
and you wonder, but how did we even get to this point where I meet somebody who I had never known my whole life?
yeah,
This person comes, I'm 35 years old, I'm an adult who has
mm,
been raised in a certain way,
mm,
following certain values, um, certain moral standards. They
mm,
come in 2 years, they want to overturn everything that you've known about yourself.
yeah,
And for me, I see it as erasure more
yeah,
than anything else. You
mm,
know, erasure to the point where you even lose your name. You no longer become Fina Godisang. Now
mm.
you are Mam Paul Hodi. Like, where is Fina Godisang? She's no longer existent. But that's a topic for another day.
True.
I think
It's a
it's a
dicey
topic
one,
for
that one.
another day. But I think it still speaks to this self love for it. Is it selfishness if you say to people, I choose myself? In this instance, I'm going to choose me. I'm not
Mm.
going to choose what you want, but I'm going to choose myself. Is it selfishness?
No, it's not. So, okay, I don't know if it's very clear, but I have a bottle here, a water bottle, right? So
Mhm.
just envision a water jug, right? And then imagine the fact that everything else around you are glasses that you need to fill. So we're talking about your work responsibilities, your role as a wife or a mother to someone, your role as a sister, as a cousin, all the other roles that you play in society.
Mm.
You are the water jug that needs to pour into all these other glasses. But bear in mind, this water jug can only pour into all these other glasses if the water jug itself has water and if it's full. So, by that extension or by that analogy, what we're saying is you yourself need to be full first for you to be able to extend yourself for the sake of other people. It
Yeah.
cannot be right that you empty yourself into all these other people and you remain dry and you remain empty and you remain tired and exhausted and drained, and then you do that under the guise of love, that cannot be love.
Wow.
So it cannot be, that is not selfishness. It's only natural that if I'm going to help you, I need to be in a position where I myself am fine. And if I'm fine, then I'm in a better position even to be able to assist you. So for anyone that seems to think that when you prioritize yourself, you are being selfish, that might actually be learned helplessness, or
Yeah.
what we call a trauma response. Sometimes life places us in positions where we are forced to look after all these other people. So I'll give an example. If you're raised in a family where the parents are way too busy, you've got siblings and you're the eldest, the parents are way too busy, maybe with work or with whatever. I understand, as a people, we get busy. What you're doing is that you're forcing this firstborn child to become, as we say, deputy parent. But what you're
Yeah.
doing is that you're taking away this child's innocence, number one. You're also taking away that childhood stage and you're transporting them directly into adulthood, even though they are not psychologically or mentally ready for it. And what
Mm.
that trains that child to do is, okay, so I need to take care of my siblings, make sure we go to school. By the way, she's also going to school. She's also still a child, but she still has to take care of everybody else. What
Yeah.
that then does is she forms a mind map in her head of how things must work. What you're saying to her is that even in her own life, she should sacrifice herself for the sake of other people. So don't be amazed then when she then becomes a married woman, if she sacrifices her own happiness for the sake of her children. And I know you've heard stories like that. People that stay
Yeah.
in dead situations because they say, well, I'm staying for the children. You are forcing her to become somebody that sacrifices herself, sacrifices her happiness, sacrifices her own personal growth and development for the sake of all these other people, which is wrong because
Mm.
she is a child. She must be allowed to be a child. Adulthood will come. It will come at a time when physically she's ready, emotionally she's ready, spiritually she's ready. But if you export her into adulthood because you actually, as a parent, are failing in your role to exercise proper care and control over your children, and now you force one of your children to take care of the others,
Mm.
then you are actually the problem. So
Yeah.
there's no selfishness there in making sure that your needs are taken care of first. And the same applies, when she becomes a mother or when she becomes a wife. She must always put herself first, because if she doesn't, what then happens is that there's that anger and that bitterness that builds up over the years. If
Mm.
I'm just standing by the sidelines, I'm sacrificing my own development for the sake of my partner. It may work for a couple of years, but I'm going to wake up one day and think to myself, I could have done a PhD and finished it. I could have traveled the world, but I had to cut all of that out and sacrifice for this individual. An individual who, by the way, might not even be appreciative of the efforts that I'm putting.
Yeah.
So why am I doing it? That's
Yeah.
actually self-sabotage, right? Because
Mm.
it's like you're cutting yourself up to give someone else life, as though you yourself don't need life.
Yeah. Wow. And I think that's the story of many families, including mine. If where it becomes something that is passed on, where you grow up raising your siblings, you are
Mm,
responsible for them.
mm,
Naturally, your child takes over.
mm,
It's like there's this cycle that we've created of just passing things that, in fact, we should be unlearning. So
mm,
that's something that I'm taking from this. Or maybe we need to reevaluate certain
mm,
things so
mm.
that we train ourselves. And you are right in saying, Matsoban, in saying even men, there are men who also sacrifice themselves
True,
for the sake of their partners, only
true.
to regret later because the person probably even leaves you after you've
Mm,
done whatever and
mm,
decides, oh, by the way, you are not my type. Actually, my type is this one. So
mm.
it works both ways. But I
True.
think I'm hearing you say we've learned so many things that teach us not
Mm,
to prioritize our needs and ourselves. We've
mm,
learned to prioritize other people to the point where we even stay when we are uncomfortable.
mm,
But you are still wearing them. There's nothing that says to you now it's time to take off these shoes because the continue their fees. You are still walking uncomfortable because that is what is expected. And we are so scared to break off the norm and say, I'm not going to do it anymore. And maybe we are scared to lose. I think there's some loss there, Sean, when you start challenging the norm, isn't it?
Of course, there's always loss, but let's look at what are you losing, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes we experience it as loneliness or loss, and yet we're actually losing the negative, and we're being prepared for the positive that's to come. The problem with a lot of us is that we're holding on to what we're familiar with, such that we're not willing to learn what is new. And yet, the way that life works is that life is ever changing, firstly. And it's the same reason why people that actually don't love you wouldn't encourage you to go on a journey of self-discovery, because they entered into a contract with the old version of you, the old version of you that was unhealed, the old version of you that served their best interest because you didn't complain about anything, you did whatever they told you to do. The second you then start waking up and saying, but hold on, when am I going to put myself first? Then they have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So it's okay for you to experience loss when you're changing, right? Bear in mind that life is a series of seasons. And so your job is to understand the season that you find yourself in. Am I in a season of learning? Am I in a season of unlearning? Am I in a season of relearning? What is it that I am supposed to be unlearning? What is it that I'm supposed to be relearning? What is it that I'm supposed to be learning? What am I being prepared for? Right? And do I know what I actually want?
Yeah.
At the same time, am I not suffering from the disease of comparing myself to other people? And we need to speak about that at some point, because we live in the age of social media now where one person can post. I know of people that go and hire cars to post, right?
Yeah.
And then someone else is online and they're thinking, "Awa, mara ke hotse le yena Sean White, o posta di GLC mang mang, o crack I tšhelete," ne? Actually, people don't think like that. They rush to conclude, "Oh, he's made it." And yet you don't know, because I just hired a car. It looks good on me, but that's not who I am. And
Yeah.
people put themselves under tremendous pressure that they know nothing about, that they shouldn't be worried about, because they're trying to compare themselves to other people. So,
Yeah.
firstly, don't waste time comparing yourself to other people. Understand the fact that you are unique. The reason why you have your special name is because there is a special deposit that was placed in you. Regardless of what religion you ascribe to, whether it's God, whether it's whatever you believe in, there's a special deposit that was placed in you that only you understand. And what
Yeah.
you need to understand is that the world is actually waiting for your unique contribution. However small you think it is, we're waiting for it. So do
Yeah.
not compare yourself to other people. Figure yourself out. Who am I? What is my purpose? What am I here for? Because the day you understand who you are is the day you stop comparing yourself to other people. I have seen people that go through years comparing themselves with other people. I have seen people that get depressed as a result of that, because they're comparing themselves to their siblings. And sometimes even the families that we come from contribute to that, because you are compared to your sibling who is doing so well in the world's eyes, and
Yeah.
you then become the odd one out. So I'm saying to everyone on the call, how do we do that? We embrace ourselves first. Embrace your past version rather. Understand that the person that you were last week is not the person you are today. You may not know it, but I'm telling you
Yeah.
now, um, as somebody that's qualified in this industry, the person that you were last week is not the person you are today. You are forever changing. So forgive yourself for past mistakes, because that was the past version of you. This is a new version of you. Your role when it comes to the mistakes you've made is to learn from them, right? That's number one. And then celebrate yourself. Like I said, whatever contribution you come with in the world, it's important. You are here for a reason. Your
Yeah.
job then becomes finding out what that reason, your reason for existence is, right? And the answers are actually all around you. The answers are as simple as, what is it that you're good at? What feedback do you get from people, right? About the
Mm.
things that you do so well. That will give you an idea of who you are or who you're meant to be. But of course, you still have to do some deep self-introspection, some deep soul searching, because you shouldn't always just be relying on what other people tell you. And don't worry about people's opinions about you. What do you say about yourself?
Yeah.
That's key. Because again, if you go through life believing anything and everything that people say about you, then you are going to be blown away with the wind, because there will always be people that believe in you and support you. In the same vein, because you're not money that's liked by everyone, there will be people that do not like you. Even if
Mm.
you've not even interacted with them, there are people on this call that are not understanding anything I'm saying. And it's okay, because I'm actually here for that one or those two or three people that get exactly what I say,
Yeah.
what I'm saying, and the people that whose lives I'm speaking into. So you're not for
Yeah.
everybody because you're unique, and that's also okay, right? And I think for me, what's also important is that you shouldn't be afraid to let go of toxic people. And I
Mm.
understand we live in a world where there is a lot of loneliness. I get that. But if you're going to be with people that make you doubt who you are, people that don't motivate you in any way, people that don't inspire you to become a better version of yourself in any way, then you're actually just self-sabotaging, right? And I actually want to encourage everybody on the call, go and check your circle. Who
Mm.
inspires you? Why are you a part of that circle, right? Are there people in your circle that make you feel you want to be better and you want to become better? Are there people that are giving you access to their own opportunities and their own resources? Or are they the type of friends that only call you ka Friday, I don't know, Savannah? They only call
Mm.
you to drink and braai, but when it comes to business opportunities, when it comes to personal development, they do not give you access to such opportunities.
Yeah.
And you need to check that as well. Understand that, yes, we're going through difficult times. This season is difficult, but this season will not destroy you, because everyone, one of us, that special deposit I was referring to,
Mm.
there is sufficient grace for you to be able to make it through difficult times
Amen.
such as this.
Mm. Mm.
And you have the abilities to make it through difficult times such as these. Find your circle, find the people that make you feel alive, the people that identify with what you identify with, the people that inspire you. Keep them close, because
Mm.
that's your tribe, that's your circle. And many of those people might not even be a part of your family, right?
Mm.
Because sometimes the families we come from, it's a topic we've not discussed, but we need to speak about it as a people. Some of our family members are actually quite toxic, more toxic than everybody else that's around. So
Yeah.
be mindful of that as well. I see there are a couple of questions. Are you okay with me addressing them directly?
Yes. Let's go to those questions. So let's start
Okay.
with the one MZ. If we can go back to the one that MZ asked, and then we take them one by one. I think you were saying, how do you love yourself when the environment is full of hate?
Aha. So understand one thing. There is a reciprocal relationship between yourself and the environment. The environment shapes you in the same way that you shape the environment. So let's get
Mm-hmm.
that clear. Okay. Then, secondly, how do you love yourself when hatred is around you?
Yeah.
Understanding and separating yourself from the hate is the easiest way. If you yourself don't hate yourself, that's already enough. So everybody else might not like me, might not understand me, but if I like myself, if I understand myself, already I'm walking in my power. And the mistake that a lot of people then make is that you try and be liked by everyone.
Mm.
And that's
Yeah.
not how it's supposed to be. Like I
Yeah.
said earlier on, you're not meant for everyone. There are specific people that are meant for you to inspire you to become better, right? So
Yeah.
if you understand that concept that you're not money that gets to be liked by everyone, then automatically you know that in as much as you may be hated, as long as you don't internalize the hate, the problem is that we then tend to internalize how other people see us. And we then believe that to be true. And yet, if you sit in your sacred space, I'm a firm believer in having a sacred space where you retreat to from time to
Yeah.
time. And you sit with yourself and you carry out a self introspection. Who am I? Am I happy with myself? Am I happy with the direction that my life is going in? If the answer
Yeah.
to those three is yes, I'm happy, that's already enough.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be so concerned, and I indicated this earlier on. You do not need to be so concerned about other people's opinions about you. Bear in
Yeah.
mind, there are people who will always raise the past version of you because that's what they're holding on to. You've
Mm.
developed, you've healed, you've become better, but all they remember is that embarrassing thing you did in 2010.
Yeah.
Cut off such people because there are people that seem to celebrate your weakness, people that seem to celebrate your mistakes. And anyone
Mm.
that celebrates your mistakes can be good for you or your mental health. And
Yeah.
I just want to, before we go to the next question, I just want to quickly say, with regards to mental health, I need to be abundantly clear. It's a serious issue. Why is it a serious issue? The part of the brain that records when you are in physical pain, right? Are you understanding me?
Mm-hmm.
If my leg gets cut off or I'm in an accident and I feel physical pain, it's the same part of the brain that records when I'm in emotional pain, right? So what
Mm.
does that mean? If I am not okay emotionally, my brain and my body then sees that as physical pain. And
Yeah.
that's why we have 90% of the people you visit in hospital are suffering from what we call psychosomatic illnesses. So it's
Mm.
actually a psychological issue. It's stress, internalized stress, it's unresolved trauma that is now presenting or manifesting itself physically. And then we
Physically.
say it's hypertension, or it's whatever other disease that's out there. So that's why it's important for us to take care of what's happening here because it has a bearing on what happens to us on a physical level. Okay.
Wow.
Mzi also asks, how do you love yourself when you've been hurt so much and told how bad a person you are? The first thing you do is to sit and to evaluate. Did I actually do something negative or bad? Right? If the answer is yes, then that's okay. What do I then do? I accept myself and I forgive myself for the mistake I've made. So I acknowledge the mistake. I acknowledge I've caused other people hurt or pain, but I also then acknowledge that I can be better and I become intentional about becoming better, right? So whatever they then say to me, as long as I've one, asked for forgiveness, two, being intentional about actually showcasing the fact that I'm sorry. Because for me, forgiveness comes in three parts. Forgiveness comes firstly through acknowledging. So you acknowledge that you're wrong or you wronged someone.
Mm.
Then you acknowledge their feelings and their emotions, right? So if I've caused you pain, I can't write you off or tell you, no, but I did that last year. So why are you still angry? I can't
Mm.
afford to do that, or I'm not allowed to do that because I caused the pain. So I acknowledge your pain. I acknowledge your feelings and your emotions around the pain. And then the third part, which is for me the most important, I commit to doing better, right? And when I commit to doing better, what I'm saying is I'm going to look at that behavior that I indulged in or exhibited. I'm going to see and examine how it hurt you as an individual. And then I'm going to commit to doing better in my actions. And so through my actions, you would actually be able to see how sorry I am. So sorry in and of itself is not enough.
Amen.
I hope
Yep.
that answers you, Mzi. I see there was also another question. Okay, Tula is asking, how do you deal with loneliness and vulnerability during the process of self-mastery, mastery, especially when it includes letting go of your loved ones who are toxic? Ah, I love this question, right? So here's the
Mm.
thing. If you are not okay with being by yourself, what business do you have being with other people? If you
Mm.
cannot sit, right, with yourself, if you do not like yourself, if you do not appreciate yourself, right, what business do you have being with other people, right? So in as much as yes, there is that loneliness and there's that vulnerability, it's about understanding why I'm pulling away from people. I'm trying to understand myself. And if you look at it, I'll take it. Let's go to the Bible for a little bit. Now,
Mm.
sorry for those that don't subscribe to that particular religion, but in any case, even if you take it from the African traditional religion, when there is a coronation of a king or a queen, where putting someone on a chair where they're supposed to sit and rule over other people, The first thing that happens rather is that there is a separation of that person from everybody else,
Mm.
right? So you are separated from everybody else because you're being prepared psychologically, spiritually, and you are being put in a position where you are being prepared for that particular seat that you're supposed to occupy. The same
Yeah.
applies when someone is receiving an anointing of some sort. There is firstly a separation from all these other people. And what that says to me is that the most important person in this equation is you, yourself.
Mm. Mm.
That's why you are pulled or separated from other people. You are forced to focus on you, forced to understand your weaknesses and your strengths, forced to develop empathy, forced to develop psychological resilience, and most of all, you are forced to learn how to listen, right? And to understand other people. And
Yeah.
then when you are ready to sit on that particular seat where you rule over other people or where you exercise dominion over other people, you are then brought out and then there's a celebration. The same
True.
applies when a woman is pregnant, which is one of the most magical and mystical things on this earth. The reason
Mm.
why, even in African traditional religion, we say not everybody should know you're pregnant,
Mm.
minimize you going out. It's because you are going through a sacred process of manufacturing a human being, right? A spiritual
Mm.
being as well.
Mm.
And so that process is so sacred that you do not require other people around you, right? Because for all we know, they may mess with the process. And
Yeah.
then we only inform people when the king has arrived or the queen has arrived that, okay, so we have a baby girl or we have a baby boy. And the reason why that is done is anything that includes growth includes to some degree separation from others. So don't fear that loneliness, don't fear that vulnerability, because it is only in silence that you learn to listen to your own voice and to understand who you are. You can't do that when you're in a group of friends because you're easily distracted. So that's
Mm.
why you need to separate yourself from the world, unplug from the world, and then be prepared, build yourself up, and then go and engage with the world on your terms. How do you deal with rejection, Brenda? Again, it's about understanding that you're not everybody's cup of tea. The same way that you and I can sit in a restaurant and you would choose chicken schnitzel and I would choose beef stroganoff, for example, is the same way that you must understand that there will be people that will not accept you for who you are. And when you find, and now I need to be clear about that, when we say accept you for who you are, it doesn't mean if you're a toxic human being, they must simply accept you. No, no, no. What we're
Mm.
saying is when you are somebody that's on the journey to becoming a better person, and you are doing your best, there are still people that will not be happy about that process. There are
Mhm.
people, just so you know, that are actually happy with you being in a position where you are lesser than them. I know of so many people that claim to support you and claim to love you until you're doing better than them,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden it becomes, yeah, what's wanker these days? Ne? Ka o regular koloi. Automatically that shows you they didn't want you to be on that level. Now that you're on that level, they develop a problem with you. So
Mm.
when you're rejected, of course it's painful, but understand one thing. Rejection, right, is actually a good thing because sometimes you're being protected from things you know nothing about. It could be
Mm.
God had specific conversations or your guides had specific conversations that these people that you think are your friends or your family were having about you when you are not even there. So
Mm.
when they are rejecting you, you think that you are unworthy, and yet it's an indirect way of you being taken apart and being protected, right? From whatever drama is going to come with these people. So
Mm.
again, I would go back to trying to understand the season I'm in. Each time you're in a position where you're trying to improve yourself, there will be people that fall off, right? Understand that's that separation that we're talking about. And yes, it can get lonely, but remember, it's for a worthy cause.
Yes.
So ask yourself what your why is, right? Remember your why. Why am I being separated? Why do I want to be better? Why do I want
Mm.
to succeed? if you remember your why, then the loneliness at some point dissipates. And also, if you remember your why and you focus on your why, a lot of the times, God, your ancestors, your guides, they bring people that actually help you along the way. So, what we call destiny helpers, right? And those
Mm.
relationships start in the funniest of ways. And these are people that were brought into your life to push you towards the direction within which you must be going. So, be at peace, practice stillness, understand your why, and understand that you're not for everybody. And because you're not for everybody, understand that not everybody walks in the light. And sometimes people fall off because the light you carry is way too bright for the
Super.
demons
Yeah,
that they're
yeah.
trying to hide. Okay. Are there other questions that need to be addressed?
I didn't see, but I just see that, there's an appreciation. But like saying, the separation process speaks into her life. You've really spoken into what she needed to hear today. And we are glad that, there's somebody who the message is directed to, because that's all
Mm,
we want. We want
mm,
people to leave this platform having taken something that is going to change their lives and
yeah.
change it for the better. So it's that unlearning, learning, and relearning process that we need to engage with every day of our lives, and not to fear rejection, because as you say, sometimes it's for your protection. You know,
Mm,
we hold on to things that are not ours. We hold on
mm,
to things that are meant to kill us, and we are holding for dear life to these things. And if
mm,
if if, if you have discernment, I think we
mm,
need to learn to be, people who can discern. And
mm,
connecting with God can help you do that. You will know
mm,
that this it won't feel right. We were
yeah.
saying the other day we have three brains, right? It's your brain, your heart, and your gut. You will
Yeah.
know, your gut will tell you that this doesn't feel right.
Mm,
The energy that I have when I'm around this person,
mm,
it's not right. But we ignore those because, again, belonging somewhere for some people really is what they want. It doesn't matter where, as long as
mm,
they feel they belong. Let's
mm.
check what Tula is saying there.
Tula says, do you think therapy works when one is not psychologically ready to face their journey head on, or it all starts with self readiness? So, the thing with healing is that um, it needs to be an internal process first. You need to be committed to healing. So I can identify, okay, I think I'm a great therapist, even if I do say so myself. And I can identify what are known as the world's best therapists, right? But if you're not ready as an individual, if you're not committed, right,
Mm,
to change, if you're not committed to healing, then it's not going to work. I'll give an
yeah.
example. You find people that walk into the counseling room or the consulting room, and you ask for a definition, or rather you ask for an introduction. So who are you? And then they tell you, okay, can Mary, for example. And then they say to you, yeah, I'm Mary, or I'm Jane, or whatever other name there is. I am 45 years old, and I'm a divorcee.
Mm,
And I always rush to ask, okay, when did you get divorced?
mm.
And you would be amazed, because some of them have been divorced for 15, 20 years, but they still hold on to the
Wear
title
the
divorce.
label, yeah.
Aha. So what it means is that this is somebody that is wearing their trauma as their identity now.
Hey.
So you are no longer seeing yourself, you are now taking your trauma as you. It then
Mm,
becomes the actual self. And that's a problem, because how you see yourself, perception matters, right? So if a person is not ready to let go, and I understand why sometimes that process is difficult, because maybe all you know is the pain that you've gone through,
mm,
and you feel it gives you a right. There are people I know of that hold on to anger because it gives them, that zest for life. So I'm angry at
mm.
this person because he did this. I'm angry at my parents because they didn't do this. I'm angry at this individual because they said this. And then you ask yourself, okay, I understand your anger and I'm not invalidating it. I hear you. But do you actually realize that by virtue of being a human being, a child of the creator, whoever you believe the creator to be, you
Mm.
actually have creative abilities. So you can actually create the kind of life you want for yourself. You can create this kind of identity you want for yourself. In the same
Yeah.
way that if you were parented in a way that was toxic, you can get to a point where you reparent yourself and you give yourself the love you'd have wanted to receive from your parents, etc., and you heal your inner child. But then,
Mm-hmm.
because some people find a lot of power in holding on to their trauma, they then don't give themselves over to the process of therapy or a process of healing, and that's why it doesn't work. Therapy itself works, but the most important thing is your willingness to actually heal,
Yeah.
and understanding that you cannot hold on to pain as your identity. And I just want to say three quick things about pain, right? The reason why industries such as the one I work in exist is because people like holding on to pain, one,
Mm-hmm.
but also people are afraid of letting go of pain. Number two.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, people are also actually just scared of experiencing pain.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example. You find yourself in a marriage where your needs are not fulfilled, you're with somebody that's self centered, you're not growing in any case or in any way. And actually, you are married, but kahle kahle, you're single. Simply because of the pain or the expected pain that you've heard about of divorcing, you may then force yourself to stay in that situation. But what's happening is that you're actually dying every single day
Mm-hmm.
because you're staying in a situation that no longer serves you or no longer serves your needs, right?
Yeah.
So, three quick things about pain that we all ought to understand so that we stop fearing pain. Allow pain to visit you when it comes. That's number
Mm-hmm.
one, right? Allow it to come. If it's pain that comes through tears, if it's you trying to express yourself, then do that. Express yourself or cry. By the way, crying is actually good for the soul, right? And it's also good physically and health wise because it's the release of toxins that have been built up in your system and the release of all the tension and all the stress. And it actually helps you to sleep better when you cry. It actually helps to strengthen your immune system. Okay, but we won't get into that for now. So, number one, allow pain to visit. Number two, allow pain to teach you whatever lessons it has come to teach you. So, if it's a relationship that didn't work out, maybe sit and evaluate, what did I do wrong? Were there boundaries that I put in place? Did I sacrifice myself for the sake of this individual who didn't reciprocate the sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
Did I place myself in a position where I sacrificed my own happiness for the sake of this individual? Evaluate what the pain teaches you because whatever hurts also instructs. So anything that hurts has a lesson deep inside of it. And your job is not to avoid the hurt, your job is to try and figure out what the lesson is so that it does not happen again. So, number one, allow the pain to visit when it comes. Number two, allow the pain to teach you whatever lessons it has come with. Number three, do not let anger or pain stay for too long. Okay. So let it come, let it visit you, let it teach you its lessons, and then let that pain go. Because, as previously indicated, when you hold on to pain as your identity, when you hold on to trauma as your identity, you are robbing yourself, your future self, of a healed version of you and of a better version of you. Okay. I will
Sure.
stop there.
We could continue forever, right? And I think um, we're going to ask you to come back, Sean, because there's so much that we need to unpack. From what you've been saying, we really need to bring you back. And I hope you will commit. Ke tla o tshwarela ko khoneng kwa, ka o sota letsogo. But
Yeah.
I think so much that you've opened our eyes to, and we appreciate the gift that you have, because already in what you were saying, I could feel myself healed from some of the things that I've been struggling with. So we really, really appreciate you, and we want to ask God to bless you so that you
Thank you.
continue, you grow in your ministry, because it's a ministry. The work that you do is actually ministering to people. So may he grow you in your ministry so that we benefit from that growth, and we heal, we get, to learn, we get to heal, we get to really grow. So thank you so much. I'm going to close the session here. and pray and ask, that as we go our separate ways, until we meet again on Sunday on this platform, may God protect us, be with us, and be with our families, covering us under His wings, and that all of us will continue to learn, and will share the lessons with other people, because lessons like these should actually be, in homes, in friendships. I like the part about checking your circle. Those are the kind of things that we need to be checking. And we thank God. Let's just close. Father, we thank you for everything that we learned today. Mudumaka, may the devil not steal it from us. May we learn, may we apply, may we become better versions of ourselves, better people. But above all, may we learn to love ourselves. Modimo re a leboga ka tsotlhe, tshegofatsa e mong le mong a utlwileng this lesson today, tshegofatsa le di-family tsa rona tse di leng teng mo, ka lebitso le le matla la Kriste Jesu re a o leboga. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, yeah, no. Why bona, they need you back, so nalo na re tla bua. We will talk.
I appreciate that, and with all humility, of course, I would be willing to come back.
Yeah.
I just want to say to everyone that's still on the call, may you be blessed and may you be prospered, and may you understand that it's never too late to be the person that you were always meant to be. And I wish you kindness, and I wish you softness, and I wish you grace, and I wish you success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Stay blessed.
Good night.
Bye.